Hello everybody, my name is Jerry Citarella and I'm with Prosperitas Financial, and the video that I'm doing now today is about something you've heard a lot about. It's called risk tolerance. But I want to kind of explain that a little bit. What is risk tolerance? It's a term, expression, phrase that's used all the time, but how do we use it and why is it important? I think y'all understand what risk is. You know, we all kind of grow up thinking about risk or not thinking about it. When we're young teenagers, we don't think about risk. We just jump off of cliffs into water and don't even care if there's a rock underneath it. We jump in cars and drive too fast and we do things that are ridiculous. And sometimes what happens? We actually get in trouble. And when you get in trouble or you get hurt, you have some sort of a setback. Well, it's the same thing in the world of investing. There's risk. And the question we always have to ask is, how much of that risk can you tolerate? Meaning, how much of a setback are you willing to accept potentially? A common thing that we use is a pretty simple scale, which you're all familiar with. It's a scale of 1 to 10. So through a series of questions and interviews and things that we're used to asking, we'll figure out, based on your personal experience, your education, and your feelings in general, maybe about the future, where you land on this 1 to 10 scale. Obviously 1 being less risky, more conservative, and 10 being more risky. Now, there are a lot of factors other than your experience and your education, like your age. If you're younger and you have more time to be in the markets, to be invested, typically you have the ability to be a little bit more risky. But it doesn't mean you automatically will be. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. But if you're older and you don't have as much time to maybe have as big of a setback, then potentially you don't want to be as risky because, well, for obvious reasons, if you're too risky and you lose half of your retirement savings in a big crash, you just won't have the time to make it up. But again, that's not the only thing to take into consideration. The problem with risk tolerance and how it affects people sometimes is they think they're riskier than they are because they've never had a bad experience. I used to ride motorcycles and I thought, I have no fear of riding these things, until I crashed one in Venice and I slid through an intersection, flipped it 3 or 4 times and watched a bunch of cars screech on their brakes. Suddenly my risk tolerance changed and I sold my motorcycle and haven't been on one since. So that's one example of what can change your risk tolerance. So when I talk to people about this, we really go into their experiences, and if they've never been in the markets when it's been really bad and haven't had to weather that and deal with it and go through it, I really have to take that into consideration, because they may tell me, oh, I'm good. I would never look at my statements. I don't care if it goes down. I want to be a 9. If they've never lost 20 or 30% of their portfolio before and had to deal with it, we may have to start them out at a 7 just to be safe and give them a little time to really experience it. So again, there's a big process to go through the analysis, and just because we can ask a questionnaire and someone may fall on a 9, doesn't necessarily we're going to put them there on the risk tolerance line because of age, because of other savings they have, again, because of experience. There's just so many factors. But the basic concept of it is, it's a starting point. We'll talk to you, we'll figure out kind of where you should be on that scale, and then build a portfolio or do financial planning as a whole around that number that we think, 1, you would be comfortable with, and 2, is appropriate for you. Because just because you're comfortable doesn't make it right. And that's part of our job, is to help educate you to the point where you understand and accept where we end up and it makes sense. Doesn't mean we can't change it later. Sometimes you dip a toe in the pool. Doesn't mean you can't dive in later. So it's a starting point, but it's not the be-all, end-all. And unfortunately, some firms and some online processes you'll use, this is all they do. They do some questions, they plug you into a 9, and that's it. It takes a bit more than that. So if you want a complete job with independent advisors that have been doing this for a very long time, give us a call. I'm Jerry Citarella with Prosperitas Financial. I can be reached at 661-255-9555, extension 111. Hope to see you soon.